Watch what's approaching, the supreme moment. Reality striking closer than it seems, don't it? Go ahead, it's for the taking if you want it. If not, the dream dies and you'll be forever haunted. Then confront it.
What's good? I have been thinking about doing this for a long time, and I just finally decided to do it. But Oceanus Shenron, that is a unit that you haven't heard about in a long time, right? And considering that we're about to get to the 5th year anniversary coming up in about a month or two, and the fact that, you know, this was pretty much, looking back, it was during the 2-year anniversary when the Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta, the original ones anyway, when they came out, Boss Rush 3 did just get released during that time, and I remember back then I had to use the Mono Agility team with Oceanus Shenron because this, I believe, was the only agility type unit that actually sealed SA. So of course, at that time, Boss Rush 3, believe it or not, was very difficult, at least for me it was, and bringing in an SA sealer was actually important. So I figured I'd revisit this and see how things are compared to, you know, that initial setup almost 3 years ago versus some of the teams you can build now. Of course, I customized the team a little bit now that, you know, we have a lot more units and a lot more, you know, versatility in terms of team building. This one, you know, for example, is the, you know, artificial life form category, basically with the, you know, LR Super Baby leaders, but also the unit does provide the +4 key and attack and defense, HP attack and defense increase of 100% for the extreme agility type. So of course that's, you know, pretty straight for the Oceanus unit. So, you know, I figured why not kind of revisit Boss Rush 3 with an updated Mono Agility team and see how things are. Of course, things are quite different compared to what it was. Like, I remember when I first cleared it, it was basically the Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta double leads, and then a couple of units like Super Vegito, I think the Super Saiyan Blue Goku, and then I'm trying to think, Agility Whis, the free-to-play you get from the Hero Extermination event, because, again, believe it or not, that HP recovery based on team HP going under 30% was actually clutch during that time, and that's after item consumption. So, you know, that pretty much should tell you how much has changed over the course of even, you know, less than 3 years. So it's actually, it's pretty amusing to think about, honestly. And I thought about initially when I was doing this video to have like both screens, one from the older run versus a new one, but I referred back to my old video, and I didn't actually have footage for a complete run on Boss Rush 3, so unfortunately I can't really do that as a comparison. But yeah, I mean, it took substantially longer, and yeah, it actually took items to complete, on top of, again, Whis recovering HP and whatnot. So yeah, it's definitely interesting to think about, you know, how much has changed over the course of time, and you know, there was a time when this was actually difficult. Boss Rush 3 is pretty much a joke right now, but yeah, almost 3 years ago, it was actually a decent challenge at the time, and remember, it had just come out. So of course, you know, whenever something new just comes out, like a new event, it is a little bit more on the difficult side. Like, remember when Super Battle Road first came out, it was close to impossible. You know what I mean? Like, there was maybe 1 or 2 stages you could clear. I remember I ended up going through the Super Tech versus Extreme Agility, like the very first day when it came out, and managed to clear it, but that took like 40 minutes just to clear that, you know what I mean? So a lot has definitely changed, and it's always good to kind of revisit some of the old scenarios. And again, I do want to say that I did go with a different team just to, you know, mix things up a little bit, so it's not really an apples versus apples, orange versus oranges type comparison, but you know, it's regardless, it's kind of nice to take a trip down memory lane and think about how things are. And a lot of these units I included on this team weren't even out at the time, you know. So initially, like I said, I was thinking about just bringing in units that you know, either basically replicating the exact same team I ran, or just, you know, build teams with the units that were in the game at the time when Boss Rush 3 came out. But I was like, if I'm gonna do this, I might as well switch things up a little bit. And help out basically Oceanus Shenron in terms of, linking buddies and stuff like that. And, that does bring me to the point pretty much throughout the video. You're going to see the copy Vegeta linked up because of actually a lot of link skills are shared between the two units. So it makes it a lot easier to get the super attack. And of course, when it comes to Oceanus, unless you get the super attack off, you're not going to seal the enemy SA. So I remember that was another somewhat difficult thing to do because, again, with the Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta lead agility version, obviously, but with that being said, it was 120% boost to super agility types, and then the extreme agility types only got a 40% boost or something like that, if I remember correctly. It's been a while, but because of that, on top of that, you only would get +1 key for the extreme agility type. So getting a super attack, I do remember it was a lot more difficult than in this scenario, obviously, but I figured I would include copy Vegeta too because it just came out on global. So of course this isn't under the best case settings because the unit is linked up with Oceanus after all, and that's not really the best linking partner for that unit, but I figured it'd be a decent way to kind of bring this unit back to. It's been a while since I tested the copy Vegeta unit on any team really, so yeah, that unit's pretty good for a free-to-play option, and you do get the maximum boost from the passive based on fighting against the I believe it was Vegeta family category enemies, so you get the full passive boost for both attack and defense based on that scenario. But even with that in mind, excluding the secondary passive, I think you still get a 60% toward attack and defense, which isn't bad if you think about it. And yeah, as a free-to-play unit, it's certainly worthwhile to at least grind it up and add it to the collection. I don't personally use that unit a lot, but it's always good to have options, you know what I mean? And that's probably the bottom line and takeaway from that. But back to the team itself, it's quite different. You have, of course, the LR Baby leader, agility, Meta Cooler. Can't remember if even the Dokkan Awaken for the agility final form cooler, that wasn't even out at the time either. So pretty much Turles wasn't out either. So pretty much all the units except for Oceanus, I think they're units that came out after the second year anniversary. So a lot, this is a completely different team, but regardless, it's it's a lot of fun. I personally haven't tested or ran through Boss Rush 3 in a very long time. There's not really a need to because in terms of showcases for any units, Boss Rush 3 is not really relevant anymore because the types of enemies you're facing is quite easier compared to some of the newer ones, so it doesn't properly showcase the unit. So I've avoided going through Boss Rush 3. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's lost a lot of its relevance in a way, but it's always good to kind of look back and take a trip down memory lane. I can't remember the last time I went through Boss Rush 1 and 2. Those are especially the ones I haven't gone through. I remember back in the day, I would actually go through those for character showcases and stuff like that, but it's so obsolete now, it's not even worth doing. I think, I haven't done it in a while, but you could probably one-shot all the way through it, and basically go through it just with one rotation per battle, and that's probably the extent of it. Even this Boss Rush 3 is extremely easy at this point. We haven't even used an item yet and barely struggling, However, this is going to be against the Super Tech Super Saiyan 3 Angel Goku, so I expect a little bit of HP depletion here, even with the considering how good the team is. It's not the best of teams, but it's good enough to where it's pretty sustainable, so I don't really see that much struggle there. But I do see a couple of units that will probably end up taking some decent hits, even though Angel Goku's SA is sealed. I would expect at least Oceanus Shenron to take a pretty decent amount of damage just from a type disadvantage standpoint, and considering the unit itself is an R rating unit, it's a very very obsolete unit to say the least. And I don't know, I honestly, like, this is one of those things where I thought about doing for months, and I just, finally decided to do it. So, maybe the time, maybe it's a timing standpoint with 5-year anniversary coming up soon that, I figured it'd be worth revisiting at this point. But speaking of which, we'll have to find out what's going on. I mean, a lot of people were saying, based on like the information coming out with the figure arts and all that, I believe Gogeta Blue is what's speculated to be what's coming out as the main banner unit for 5-year anniversary. But again, I mean, a lot of people were pretty much saying it's confirmed, but we'll wait and see until some of the official news or reliable enough leaks come out, and we'll go from there. But yeah, it's crazy because we just got through a 300 million download not too long ago, and then I mean, shortly after we're gonna have 5-year anniversary. So a lot of people are definitely having difficulty with the saving stones issue, and I know Global just, they're about to get the transforming Trunks and Zamasu unit. Transforming Trunks, by the way, is a very, very good unit, and I use that unit quite a bit. He's very reliable. The ability to stack attack and defense is very beneficial, and the category itself, the Future Saga category is very good now with all the inclusion of new units. So it's quite different. It's funny because the Future Saga used to be one of the worst categories in the game, and then, in my opinion, it ended up becoming one of the best, and it's easily top 5, I think, personally. But I run that unit a lot, and it's a very fun unit and category to run. But back to the point, I mean, it's crazy how the schedule is. I mean, the Super Dragon Ball Heroes banner is coming out for JP pretty soon. It's typically during the month of November, so most likely it'll be end of the month. And Golden Cooler is obviously coming, and a lot of hype is generated around that. So, of course, people are going to be summoning for that as well. And it's hard to do that. And on top of that, you have December, the month of December, where you have the Christmas banner. Last year, I think it was was it double rates with the LR Trunks and Mai? I can't remember exactly. I don't know if it was double rates or not, but I do remember it being Trunks and Mai. But that banner definitely does have a lot of value too, because for most people it has to be double rates, because I remember pulling a bunch of LRs at that time. So you got that, and then shortly after, like literally weeks after that, you have 5-year anniversary. So it's quite ridiculous of a schedule. And I mean, what else is there to say? It seems like over the course of time, Bandai and Akatsuki definitely increased the amount of banners per year. It just seems like there's so many banners out now. It's you kind of have to like skip periodically, otherwise you're just going to continue spending a ton. And it's hard to do that because whenever they introduce new categories or new leader skills, it's difficult to skip those, because most of the time you want those new units with the new leader skills or categories or whatever the case is, and if you don't, you miss out on it. But I guess the saving grace or caveat with that is we do now have gacha coins, so if you miss out on it, you could always go back whenever they return and exchange it for the units with the gacha coins. So that is another thing that is a very good thing that the game was introduced, and I'm very happy about. But back to this Boss Rush 3. I know I was kind of talking over it, but it's literally a joke now. I mean, it's crazy how easy this is compared to what it used to be. But that really does signify how much has changed over the course of time, with the introduction of new units, increased amount of free-to-play options, and versatility of categories and skill sets. I mean, there's a lot of skill sets that didn't exist at the time that currently does, and all sorts of new gimmicks are in the game now. So of course it's a little bit unfair to judge Boss Rush 3, because at the time it was actually pretty difficult, but it just kind of tells you how far the game has come compared to what it was. I mean, it's crazy to think about. Boss Rush 3 is actually almost 3 years old. I mean, let that sink in. That's pretty wild, because it almost doesn't feel like it was that long ago, but it actually is. So depending on how long, you know, Dokkan Battle keeps going on for, we'll find out. Maybe we'll be looking back at 5-year anniversary and thinking how long ago that was, and I don't even want to imagine how the game meta and all that is at that point. It's probably going to be, you know, quite ridiculous, and yeah, I can't even imagine what that would be like. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see how things are as time goes on, and you know, we'll figure out the deal. But yeah, it's again, it's always interesting to revisit some of the old events and see how things are and see how much has changed. You know what? I should have honestly just gave the Dokkan mode attack to Oceanus, because why the hell not, right? But whatever. You know, not much in damage applied there, but it is what it is, and you know, it's the good thing about the copy Vegeta unit is reduction of attack and defense. It actually is pretty helpful, and that's another thing I forgot to note is a lot of these enemies, they are prone to having attack and defense reduced. You know, a lot of the newer events now, they're immune to some of that. At least the reduction of attack, it seems like more or less common, but you know, nowadays, yeah, it's a lot more restrictions applied, but you know, they had to make it difficult but manageable in Boss Rush 3 when it came out, and that's another layer to think about how things have changed. I mean, if you were still able to reduce attack and defense and still had difficulty, it just tells you how a lot has changed. But yeah, that's pretty much it. The revisiting of Boss Rush 3 with Oceanus Shenron. So a little bit of a flashback, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys later.